Welcome to the United We Scan podcast, the podcast by rural carriers for rural carriers. The views expressed in this podcast are of the presenters and the presenters only and do not represent the views, opinions, or strategies of the United States Postal Service or the National Rural Letter Carriers Association. We ask that you please consult your assigned union representative for guidance in your local area. Please like this podcast, share with your fellow rural carriers, and subscribe to be notified each time a new episode is uploaded. Please leave a comment or question for us below. Thank you. Now, here are the hosts of the United We Scan podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 101. We're going to touch a little bit again on the Christmas overtime, the MOU, and Dejoy under fire. I guess is about the easiest way to put that one.
Oh.
So, yeah, we're got a few things lined up for this evening. So, how was your week, James?
It was about normal for after Black Friday and Cyber Monday and everybody shopping online. Had probably the most packages I've had all year on Wednesday overall. Didn't do too bad. I still got done around 6 because it was very light mail compared to the packages. But overall, I mean, we had some snow here, but it didn't really cause any issues for traction on my route this time. Only had about an inch or two in most areas. And then got to the weekend and back here for the podcast. Haven't really had much to complain about. Just been doing my page posts every single day and talking with carriers every single day like I normally do. So, but how was your week of not to do list, Bill?
Oh God. Let's see. How many things did I not do? 143, I believe. But I didn't bother counting them because I didn't want to do them. So, no. It's been a normal week for me in regards to fielding questions and answering, queries in regards to what people should do, shouldn't do. The going over the overtime is one of the things that hit this week, and it's just so significant that we go over it just briefly because of the fact that people were still asking questions that, in my opinion, should not be asked again. But there apparently are offices that have no idea of how to get paid and what they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do. And there are offices, again, that management is imposing their will or district directives on them in regards to trying to cheat them out of their due salaries for their work and their efforts. And it's pissing the shit out of me. I mean, God, it really is. It's an all-out attack on the rural craft right now. It really is. Other than that, it's been enjoyable. Just got rid of another grandson about an hour and a half ago. I love seeing both of them on the weekends, and weather is warming up, but comes at a price because we're going to get rain with that. So better than snow, eh? How about you, Kristen? How was your week?
Oh, long. Every day was long. Monday was a 12-hour day. Friday was a 12-hour day. Well, 11-and-a-half-hour day. It was a long week. I had second trips a couple different days. Yeah, it was. Mail wasn't bad, but again with the packages, it was crazy. And we had the one day where Amazon didn't show up until 9:30, with half the carriers had already left for the office, and I was on my way out the door and having to come back and run a second trip because of that. Or I thought I was getting assistance on Friday, and they didn't do that because our one POV route had about 70 packages that he could not fit into his POV. So they took what was the person that was supposed to assist me and had them assist the other RCA. delivering those packages. So I had a second trip yet again on Friday. I had one on Thursday. I think I had like 3 of them this week. It was just insane. I heard yesterday was light. I don't know. It was my relief day, so I got to sleep in a little bit yesterday. But yeah, it was starting to warm up here too. It's supposed to rain tomorrow. High of 42, which is going to turn the snow into slush. We got our first real snowfall Tuesday night, so Wednesday morning was fun. I had yet to put the puzzle weights and everything in my LLV, as did one of the other carriers. So her and I decided to help each other out. So when her truck was pulled up to the door and she was getting the weights and I was setting them in for her, and then put my truck up, and she basically the same thing, and grabbed a couple extra sandbags for her to take back to her LLV. And yeah, it was fun. Not so much. Makes for longer days when you're having to fight the snow. But yeah, other than that, not too bad of a week in general. Just, it's Christmas time. Parcels are heavy.
Do me a favor, Kristen, explain to people the puzzle weights. A lot of people aren't familiar with that terminology because of the fact that, they don't have them. Our office never had them. Did have a city carrier who had them. Basically brought it over from his other office. So explain the puzzle weights to the carriers.
Weights are square blocks about yay big. Some of them, well, the center ones are actually perfect squares. You have ones that go around the outside perimeter on the floor of your LLV, FFV, your government vehicle, and they interlock like puzzle pieces, and they're usually filled with sand and weigh about 5 pounds each. So it adds that extra weight. And the state that I live in, it is illegal to run chains on any vehicle. So we don't run chains in Michigan. And for the most part, district does not approve offices to have studded snow tires. So we have to use weights. I personally don't weigh down my truck a lot. I do the puzzle weights, and then I put one sandbag over each wheel well. That way it just gives me a little bit extra. That way also I have sand if I need to. I did have to bust one open last year because I got on a slick surface trying to get out of a inclined driveway. Not a big incline, just a small one, but was just enough ice to not let me move. So I had to bust open the sand and throw it down by the tires to get some traction. But yeah, that's what our puzzle weights are. Is basically the perimeter actually looks like puzzle pieces that slide together, and then the center section is perfect squares filled with sand, approximately about 5 pounds each. And all of our trucks have them. We don't have maintenance at our location, and like I said in pre-show, our VMF is approximately 2 hours away. So that comes down on basically the carriers making sure that our trucks are properly ready for the winter, putting our snow shovels in, or those stupid plastic tracks that are supposed to help you get traction that don't work because you put them underneath the tires, you hit the gas, and they shoot out like, yeah. And then sand and whatnot we need. And I know some carriers that'll put 4, 5, 6 sandbags in a tub and place one tub on each side by the wheel wells. To me, that's just way too much weight. That just doesn't help you at all. There is such a thing as too much weight, especially in those trucks. But once you get stuck, then you're really stuck because it's just going to sink you down even more.
I
So I
usually
like,
just put one of the supervisors in the back.
not in my office, maybe out of yours, but
Hey,
so
I
yeah,
need you to do a route inspection with me all day.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So needless to say, there was a couple of us that were braving the cold and blowing snow that morning because, like, our truck didn't get to the dock on time. Our truck was running a little behind, and then our company that's supposed to plow us out is not the greatest, and they then decided that they didn't know what they were doing in front of the dock, and the truck had to wait for them to move so they could get to the dock. So, we kind of made up some time and, yes, I did do it under PM casing. Or not PM casing, excuse me, load truck. Start load. Because I was loading my truck with weights.
Mm-hmm.
Not
You did
something I
too,
normally
Yeah,
get paid for.
We did have one supervisor. She tried to do the ride along in the jump seat
Mm-hmm.
and came back in and said, "I can't ride in the back of that truck." And the comment was, "It doesn't cover my ass." And
Yeah.
okay, I'm generally can keep a straight face when somebody says something like that, and I lost it. I lost it. I almost got written up for it. It was so I was laughing so bad that I hurt myself. I really did. Couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe at all. I'm down on one knee holding on to the case, and this is not funny. I said, "Oh, yes, it is." Oh God. Then I got in trouble later when I thanked her for that amusing anecdote. They didn't think it was funny. I thought it was hilarious.
So yeah, Christmas season's upon us. I know what my route is like at Christmas time from before when I was a sub running it, and even before that, watching, before I even started on that route. But you just kind of take it in stride. And I got I'm sorry, I had to send her out on the other route. I know you didn't want to do a second trip. Yep, as I'm getting back at 6:15, the last thing I wanted to do was load up the packages and go out for another trip. But I did it for all 7 miles. It was like 4 stops. That was all I left. But 2 of the boxes were so big they took up half the floor of the LLV.
Damn.
So yeah. So yeah, it's just it's that season. What else can you do? Just bear with it. I just keep my lighted finger gloves charged up and ready to go when I need them. Which I think I used them 4 out of 5 days this week.
Yeah, I dropped off 5 pairs of them last week at my office.
Yeah,
Just the people I like.
I did not make evaluation at all this week. Most days I was well over 10 hours, sometimes 11 and a half.
Now, the reason, James, I wanted to go over the Christmas overtime a little more because of the questions being posted on different platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And it amazes me that people don't understand. I mean, the Christmas overtime is pretty straightforward. And we have people on the platforms responding saying, you don't get overtime until you go over 56 hours. No, you get overtime after you go over your evaluation. You don't get overtime if you're helping on another route. Yes, you do all year long. You get help. Do you get double time on Sundays? No, you don't get. There's no such thing as double time unless it's in the grievance. We've been directed not to go over 600 minutes of load time for a week. And it is what it is. If you go over 600 minutes, it's 610 minutes. There's no benchmarking allowed. And especially if you're doing, multiple trips, you may go over that 600-minute limit. If you're assisting on other routes, you may go over that 600 minutes. If in some cases where you have a POV, you're making 3 trips, you damn well might be going over 600 minutes. Do not let anybody tell you that there is a 600-minute benchmark, which is illegal. The other thing that got me, how many trips? Management told us we don't get load time for putting DPS and flats in the truck. Excuse me? Where the fuck are you? And who the hell's telling you this? You only get load time. You only get load time to put parcels in. And I just sat there shaking my head. And by the end of Friday, I had 138 responses back on it, saying, and don't forget this, don't forget that, and don't forget your marriage mail. If you're picking it off the floor and putting it into a conveyance, that's load time, folks. If you're picking parcels off the floor and putting them in a conveyance, that's load time. If in your case, like our case, we have a parcel area and we have a bullpen area, taking the parcels out of the bullpen hamper and putting them into your conveyance is load time. Period. Everything you're putting in the truck is load time. Picking off the floor, load time. Get paid for what you do. That's what Rex is supposed to do. So don't let anybody bull you or bullshit you or bully you into saying, now it's just for mail. Oh, sorry. I'm so pissed that people are that naive.
That's
They ask
benchmarking.
questions like that. Yes. All of it
And
is
we
benchmarking.
grieve benchmarking. We grieve benchmarking every time they do it. Because now it's gotten to the point where it is no longer the supervisor doesn't know any better. This is intentional. It is malicious, unilateral, and you should not be falling for it. And grievance should be filed immediately. And management not knowing as much as carriers is a good thing, but at the same time, management knows what they're saying to these carriers. Management knows what they're trying to do, and the biggest thing they're trying to do is get themselves off their district managers list. That's all they're doing is trying to get off their district managers list so they can just smooth sail while they sit on their computers and play solitaire or scroll Facebook on their phones.
Or sit on the office floor putting together garland when the clerk has been asking for stamps because she has a line out the door and doesn't have any stamp stock at the counter. Oh, sorry.
We don't sell no stinking stamps.
And that's why I tell everybody, if you file a grievance, it is intentional at this point over anything with Rex. Because management knows what they're doing at this point. And if they don't, well, then they obviously have been under a rock for the last 2 years before they made that decision.
And what's the best way to fight bad management? An educated carrier, an informed carrier, somebody who's been paying attention to the contract, to the MOUs, the 603, somebody who will stand up for themselves. I sat there, what was it? Somebody said something about 4 subs are sitting at home. And, you're out there making extra runs, especially during the overtime period. Those subs should be utilized because of the fact that they're cheaper than the regulars. But management isn't even that smart. Now, they may not have vehicles available. They may have problems with getting sorting done in a timely fashion. But whenever you have subs sitting at home and you're paying time and a half to a regular, you're losing money, folks. You got to be some kind of special dumbass not to realize that.
All right. So I got a copy of the postal bulletin dated 10/31/24. This is the finance section. There's a bunch of exhibits. I'm not going to go over all, I don't know how many, 14 pages. Trust me, I'm not going to do that. Not going to go through the exhibits because it's basically showing management how to enter in the pay for the Christmas OT. I'm just going to go over the highlights real quick, yet again, explaining the Christmas overtime procedures. So, Christmas pay procedures for rural carriers. The 2024 Christmas period for rural carriers begins Saturday, December 7th, which was yesterday. Week 2, pay period 26, 2024, and ends Friday, December 27th, 2024, week 2, pay period 01 of 2025. During this period, certain timekeeping and pay rules apply. Timekeepers, including postmasters, supervisors, and other employees responsible for rural carrier time and attendance recording must become familiar with Article 9.2.h, Christmas Allowances and Procedures of the Handbook EL 902, which is the agreement between the USPS and the NRLCA Association 2021 to 2024. The article describes types of compensation that rural carriers are entitled during the Christmas period. Related timekeeping procedures and regulations for the Christmas period, and special rules that begin with the start of the guarantee year, which was October 5th, continue through the end of Christmas period, December 27th. The preferred method of timekeeping data entry is through the RMSS web application. I am not going to go through the exhibits. So, the next one is the overtime during Christmas period. Regular carriers, designated 71, FLSA, which is your Fair Labor Standards Act, B, types of overtime. During the Christmas period, regular carriers are eligible for the following 2 types of overtime. A, FLSA overtime, and B, Christmas overtime. FLSA overtime is paid at all times of the year, not just during the Christmas period. Regular rural carriers are paid FLSA overtime under 2 circumstances. A, hours worked in excess of 12 hours in a day. If a carrier works more than 12 hours in a day, the amount over 12 is entered in the daily overtime block on the PS Form 1314. And B, hours worked in excess of 56 in a week. These hours are calculated automatically when the total hours worked are greater than 56. No separate entries are required. That is the FLSA. That's where those 56 hours in a week come in. That is year round. All right. Christmas overtime is paid only during the designated Christmas period. Regular rural carriers are paid Christmas overtime under 2 circumstances. A, Christmas assistance. This is assistance provided by the regular carrier on his or her relief day. Christmas assistance work hours are entered in the Christmas Assist work hours block on the PS Form 1314. So if you go in on your relief day and provide parcel assistance on your route, then that would go under the Christmas overtime under Christmas assistance. And then B, hours worked in excess of routes evaluation is based on the total actual work hours for the week, not on individual days. For example, if a route has a daily evaluation of 9 hours and the regular carrier works 10 hours on 2 days and 8 hours on the other 3 days, no overtime would be paid, even though the carrier exceeded the daily evaluation on 2 days of the week. They did not exceed the weekly evaluation. The weekly evaluation is 45 hours. The carrier worked 44 hours. Then it reverts back to looking up at the F21 section 567 for overtime calculation when leave days are taken during the week and for routes with the evaluation less than 40 hours. These hours are calculated automatically, so no separate entrances or calculations are required. The overtime rate. The overtime rate paid to regular FLSA Code B carriers is 150% of the carrier's regular rate. The regular rate is determined by dividing the total compensation received for hours actually worked by the carrier since the beginning of the guarantee year, not including overtime, by the total number of hours worked since the beginning of the guarantee year, not including overtime. This overtime rate is used for both the FLSA overtime and the Christmas overtime. That's why we have the guarantee period. It's because of that time from the beginning of the year through the Christmas overtime period is used to calculate our overtime rate. Okay, replacement carriers. Replacement carriers, designation 70, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, and 79 are only entitled to FLSA overtime. For these employees, FLSA overtime is paid for hours worked in excess of 40 in a week. Regular carriers, designation 71, FLSA. Regular carriers who FLSA code is A are paid for actual hours worked, not evaluated hours. They are paid overtime for hours in excess of 8 in a day or 40 in a week. These would be the people that, when you first go regular, and you have that option of going hourly through the end of the guarantee period, or evaluation. I know most people take the evaluation, so that would be the FLSA code A. For the FLSA code A carriers and their hours in excess of 8 in a daily overtime block on PS Form 1314, hours in excess of 40 in a week are calculated automatically by the system. Auxiliary route carriers. Now, this has been one that's come across to me a few times too, questions-wise. Carriers serving any auxiliary route are compensated at the hourly rate for actual hours worked during week 2 of pay period 26 and both weeks of pay period 01. During this period, carriers are not paid the evaluation of the route. Overtime is paid only when the carrier exceeds 40 hours for the week. That's auxiliary route carriers. That's all it says. Carriers serving any auxiliary route are paid hourly. Christmas assistance and additional service provided on a rural route during Christmas period. For regular carriers, Christmas assistance applies only to assistance given by the carrier on his or her relief day, while a replacement carrier is assigned to work the full route. For the replacement carriers, it applies to any assistance provided on a regular or auxiliary route during the Christmas period. Christmas assistance is reported in the Christmas Assist work block, blah, blah, blah. Regular carriers can perform Christmas assistance only on their relief day. Therefore, any regular carriers assigned to a J or K routes may report Christmas assistance. Regular carriers are assigned to route types H or M, which is a mileage route, which I think there's still only one left in the country, cannot perform Christmas assistance because these route types do not have a relief day. Note, in accordance with an agreement between the parties, regular road carriers may perform service on Sunday or provide auxiliary route on other routes in the office. This is considered FLSA daily OT, not Christmas assistance. So, these are examples of Christmas assistance. A regular carrier comes in on his or her relief day and helps a replacement carrier case the route. A regular carrier comes in on his or her relief day and carries part of his or her regular route. List the replacement carrier in 1314. A replacement carrier carries part of a regular route due to Christmas heavy Christmas volume. Those are the examples of Christmas assistance. These are not examples of Christmas assistance. A regular carrier comes in on the relief day and cases and carries their regular route. A regular carrier works 2 hours beyond the daily evaluation of the regular route. And a regular carrier performs any work while assigned to an H or M route. So that right there should explain it. It's considered the Christmas assistance if you come on your relief day and you help your sub out. Whether it's casing or taking partial of the route or doing parcels on your route on your relief day. So, and then, going over your evaluation is Christmas overtime for the week. And it's by the week, not by the day. Anything else to add, gentlemen? There's 13 more pages, but it's all the exhibits, and I am not going to go through them because they're not needed, because it's how whoever does the payroll entry should enter it in. But it is available. If anybody wants a copy of it, just ask, or I'll probably post it up in the group too. I'll download the file.
So our next topic we had was at the end of the last steward training that they had, which was dealing with a difficult grievance was the training that they had. But all the stewards in the training, from what I heard, wanted to talk about the MOU, wanted to get answers for why the union did this. And they were all disheartened by the comments made by John Adams and Nikki Phillips. when it came to this MOU. One of the biggest things that stood out to me was them saying this was the best out of three options. And they didn't really go into details on the three options. And it felt like it was forced down our throats without any regard to the carriers, to the point where I heard a steward stepped up and literally questioned them point blank on it and told them that they're now fielding so many questions about the MOU and why would the union do this to the carriers and things like that. You know, and Kristen, you had something that somebody sent to you from dealing with this MOU as well, didn't you?
Yes. Let me get that right here. Pull it up on my phone because that'll be easier. And it kind of broke my heart. I understand where they're coming from, but yeah, this was not an easy decision. It says, to curtail the bullying and mistreatment, I stepped up to be the union steward. With the MOU, where the union and the post office has basically turned me and many of my coworkers into indentured servants, I have chosen to resign, not only as a steward, but from the post office altogether. I just wanted to share my letter of resignation to the union. And this here, I hereby tender my resignation as a local steward of the NRLCA. It has become blatantly obvious that the NRLCA is not a union but a criminal organization that only seeks to steal from its members while working in concert with the entity it is supposed to negotiate with to further cause harm to its members. Its decisions are arbitrary and capricious and not in line with the best interests of the craft it alleges to represent. For the union and USPS representatives to openly admit any route adjustments and pay rate is based on flawed information and incomplete data, and then turn around and impose these arbitrary pay scales on its members, employees, is nothing short of indentured servitude. My conscience will not allow me to be party to these criminal acts and malicious behavior. I therefore resign my stewardship in the NRLCA. May you find peace and a better path in your next life. Thanks for all you do. We do appreciate you guys. Now, they did decide to not resign from the post office, basically to be there for one of their coworkers that is going through a lot of stuff and really needs that
Moral support.
yes. So they have decided they are going to stay with the Postal Service to be there for that coworker and friend. It wasn't an easy decision. They were ready to completely walk away.
And this is true across the entire craft. This is true across the entire craft. There are so many carriers right now that have turned around and quit because of this MOU. Gave up on 20, 25, 30 years of a career just because of this MOU as the icing on the cake. It isn't the only reason they're quitting, but it is one of the biggest reasons that caused them to step out the door for the last time. And the continued assault that keeps occurring on our pay from the beginnings of Rex to now just continues to pile on the carriers. And then you have management harassing them and benchmarking them and things like that. When does it stop? When do we actually get somebody who actually cares about this craft enough to stop the constant loss of revenue for these carriers?
Well,
Makes
that
no
was
sense.
like the email that Poom sent out in another state. I mean, reading that was just enough to say, what the hell? I mean, that, yeah, top-down management, they don't give a shit. I'm going to read that email that went around that was sent out by a POOM in another state. I kind of have to read this. It's, I'll warn you guys. I mean, this doesn't reflect any of our personal thoughts, but
This is the opinion of that POOM and that POOM only.
Exactly. Due to the lack of compliance that postmaster managers and supervisors continue to do, consider this message as your written instructions moving forward through the peak season. Failure to follow these specific instructions will result in corrective action without exception. I will hold the installation head responsible for the actions of your subordinate managers, supervisors, and 204Bs. Make sure you communicate these instructions to your staff, including the Saturday and Sunday operations. There will be no parcel runs of any type in your office, no matter what the size or number of routes you have, without advanced approval from me the day before. You are required to create static routes to accomplish any 6 to 9 operation that I get approval for in advance. You should have an idea based on your PM distribution how many routes you will need. I will need the name of the employees and the anticipated packages per hour. Do not go off the reservation and run your own play. That was in cap locks. You are not paid to agree with the instructions given to you. You are paid to follow the instructions. Make sure you do. Do not call me begging for forgiveness for failure to follow these instructions. They are clear and non-negotiable. There are to be no employees on any street operations after 2100. I have to inform the DM if this is going to occur. I am chasing the same offices every night for this information and still not getting accurate answers. If you pay attention to what is going on at 1800, you should know if you have any potential issues. If we don't get this under control, the postmaster will be required to stay until the last carrier returns. In most of these offices, it is performance issue that is not being addressed. Do not put your job career at risk by falsifying clock rings. There are too many ways to verify this information. I need this information by 2030 at the latest. Don't make me text or call you looking for it. Again, the installation head is responsible for this information. Number 3. The policy has not changed for allowing employees to work over 12 hours in a day or 60 hours in a week, or more than 11 consecutive days. So obviously, this district has an 11 consecutive day thing. This includes carriers, rural carriers, clerks, custodians, and supervisors. We start talking about this on Monday and Tuesday, yet we still fail by Friday. Again, I am not interested in your opinion on labor contracts and reasons why you exceed these limitations. These are the instructions from the DM, and they will be followed. Many of these are performance issues and lack of expectations. Monitor the performance of all your operations and address the employees that are asking for your attention. Number 4, non-deliveries are to be accurately and reported correctly. You must A, notify the district, B, enter the information in DCV, and C, enter the information in FDB. If you or your closer are unsure of the requirement, contact so-and-so to walk you through it. CPMS issues are also properly documented. There is a discrepancy report and radar. You must provide an FMO number for any box not collected for any reason, no exceptions. Call me if you need clarification on these instructions, but they are not negotiable, so please don't think you will be the exception. Wow.
Gee, and you wonder why postmasters and supervisors all have a foot up their ass and they're walking around on, pins and needles, because this is the type of management overseeing them. So, shit comes downstream, and guess what? they're in the line of fire. Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how Thomas Kearns feels about his email now becoming public domain, because all these emails technically are public domain and can be FOIA requested through the United States Postal Service. But he sent this to 44 postmasters. On top of that, he sent this to 3 other people carbon copied. So that is 47 people that got this email, and now it's on the internet. And to me, this guy right here needs to go. That is not the type of management that the Postal Service even needs, nor is it management that needs to be here anymore. This, I'm the dominant one, and don't ask any favors of me, don't ask me to change anything. Don't even tell me that it's against the contract, because I already know it's against the contract and you're going to do it anyway. That kind of mentality needs to go. If you're not willing to follow the contracts, then you shouldn't be a manager of the United States Postal Service.
And if you can't treat your employees with dignity, respect, and fairness, you don't need to be in charge either.
Yeah, it goes for supervisors and postmasters as well as the craft.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy somehow got promoted to manager of post office operations in Ohio District 1.
James, it's no different than the guy who sacrificed 2 of his own children being a poom in my district, okay? And was expected, to be in charge of our welfare when 2 of his own children died in his vehicle. So they don't give a shit.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they sit there and they read reports, they do the numbers, and this is how it's supposed to be done. You're dealing with people, not robots. You're dealing with situations outside of our control. The weather, the Amazon truck that's late, the DPS truck that's late, the shortage of subs. People are already bone tired from working their overburdened routes. My overburdened route was overburdened for only 6 years before I left. And on a personal note, in regards to that lady who resigned as being a steward and was going to leave the post office, she understands what I went through. Okay, but my problem is that, well, not my problem, but I had the opportunity to be able to leave, and somebody sits there and says, "Oh, Bill, look at all the tips and gifts you'll miss for Christmas." This was never about making tips at Christmas or getting gifts. This was about my own sanity in regards to dealing with people who have not been fired, have not been disciplined, have not been removed for the way they treat us. And, whether it's the post office that should act on it or our own national board should be pressing this issue, it didn't matter because it hasn't been done for years. And until we put the hammer down on these bastards, and don't cut that, but I mean sincerely, these bastards, nothing will change.
Yep.
Until somebody finally comes in to the national board that actually is willing to put their foot down on stuff like this. And taking the control out of the local office has been the biggest problem that the Postal Service has had. And this gentleman right here, I won't even call him a gentleman because there was nothing gentle about what he just said, has absolutely no clue how to actually be a proper manager. And no $80 million spent at the University of Oklahoma is going to change that type of mindset. That's somebody that needs to go.
Yeah. I want to know who has the foresight to know the day ahead of time, the evening ahead of time, which carriers are going to call out, how many trucks are going to be late, what the weather conditions are going to be. I mean, you have to be just as short of a freaking genius to know all that so that you can give this asshole projections on what your hours will be the next day or who is going to need extra help. I want that carrier's name.
Yeah.
What?
I talked with my postmaster the other day. I'm like, do know about how many packages we're going to get tomorrow? He's like, we won't know until at least 11 o'clock at night, if not later, because it has to go through the system. The plants have to
Yeah.
process it in order for us to know. And our office, by the way, doesn't have all their packages processed at the plant until 4 in the morning. So there's no way my postmaster could turn around and send an email and say, hey, I'm projecting these people are going to be working over their hours. These people are going to be offering package assistance, blah, 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 at 5 o'clock in the evening the day before.
Yep. And we've all heard already that, the companies that drop off to us, hence Amazon, UPS, whatnot, may only report to say, oh, we're sending 100 parcels, but they're actually dumping 150, 200 on us. They're inaccurate reporting what they're shipping to us as well. So no, you don't have it accurate until the day of, and they get sorted to the routes.
Which is a good point, because we had a UPS, a large UPS facility, less than 2 miles from our office. Depending on how many trucks they had, how many drivers they had, would dictate how much they would actually drop off to us.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, this is a real good one, I love this one. Sometimes they wouldn't even have a truck driver to bring it to us. But as long as it was off their dock in a truck, they considered it delivered to the USPS. And customers would say, well, hold it, you got it this morning at 6:10. No, it was still sitting at the UPS dock, and we were being charged, for failures.
Mm-hmm.
How do you have failures if you didn't receive them in yet?
Yeah.
Like I said, they're sitting there reading reports, looking at a computer screen. Get off your damn asses and get a handle on what's happening in the real world.
Speaking of real world,
that was a nice segue into that.
we have the real world to talk about with Postmaster Dejoy and his Senate hearing he had on the 5th. And how real world it got in that Senate hearing for Dejoy.
I'll admit I have not watched it yet, but yeah.
Oh, nobody brought any KY.
They're going with the hot sauce, huh?
They went right up to the elbow too, man. I mean,
with the hot sauce, huh?
I will put it this way. Considering I did do a breakdown of it on my page, but Senator Ossoff, Senator Peters, Senator Rosen, Senator Hassan were spectacular in this hearing. Josh Hawley had some good points, but Blumenthal, this dude is all far off in left field. All he cares about is selling off postal property so that his cities can redevelop them and have developers make extra cash on them. And Rand Paul, I'll save him for the end.
Yeah.
So, some points that I wanted to go on. He's trying to tell the senators that the collection of mail is the only piece that's actually slowing down in the Postal Service, even though his standards went from 2 to 3 day delivery at 90% to 3 to 5 days at 90%. Local transportation optimization, he can't explain why it's slowing mail down. And it's not consequential or cost savings for a local transportation optimization, but changing to a regional approach is more economical. 610,000 people work for the Postal Service, 710,000 retirees in the postal rolls. $10 billion in retirement is why they're in the red. Could not raise prices fast enough to cover inflation. What inflation cost does the PO post office cover? What exactly did go up in cost? Because obviously payroll didn't. Um,
Yeah, payroll
we'll
hasn't gone
go.
up except for those working all the
Yeah,
overtime because they don't have subs and they're having regular relief days.
yeah.
Well, it went down because another table one retired in September.
um, when Hassan was asking Dejoy questions, he did make the statement: "We have a service standard for the whole country, not just localities. It's the whole country as a whole. You can't just do specific regions or things like that for standards." Um, talking to Ossoff when Ossoff was questioning him, um, when he was asked about the death in Palmetto, the uh, SNDC, he was supposedly had a microscope on to fix things and get it fixed within 60 days of the last Senate hearing he had. He was quoted saying, "I have a lot of events throughout the course of the year. I have a lot of deaths throughout the course. I don't know specifics." So you had a microscope on Palmetto, and you weren't informed that a member of your employment died in your facility. And he said that approximately 10 deaths a year in the Postal Service. Um, Holly was a good one, especially Missouri. The elimination of end of day collection in Missouri would cut off about 65% of Missouri post offices for end of day collection. But he countered with 88% of Postal Service mail originates within 50 miles of a hub. Duh. Cities account for the most amount of mail because that's where most of the population is located. Rural America may send letters every single day, but if somebody and two people in a city are sending letters every single day, that city is going to have a lot more mail than the rural route is. Um, when Marshall was questioning him, he said, "We've had a defective pricing model for 20 years, 20% inflation, and it costs $3.5 billion flying mail to reach the 3-day standard. And by cutting out the flying, he cut $1.5 billion from the transportation budget. So you took 3.5 million out of flying the mail, but you only saved 1.5 total. How is that possible that you increased 2 billion in transportation sending it with trucks? And now you can't even get it there in 4 days. Now you're at 5 days. This is to the people. There is a romance with an organization that long ago lost its ability to do the service everyone expected. It was obvious. In the past, we let it go. There's a significant resistance to any change. So he says that there's a love affair with the post office as it used to be, not what it is today. I'm sorry. I think there's still a love affair with the post office the way it is today. With all the packages and mail that we deliver, people still respect their carriers more than any other federal agency out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said 640,000 people. Remember earlier I said 640,000 people work for the post office. 640,000 people need to learn how to operate like FedEx and UPS. That's the only way we survive. So cut out rural delivery because we're the last mile for FedEx and UPS in a lot of places where FedEx and UPS don't deliver. So all those areas that don't get FedEx, UPS, Amazon, DHL, any of the other carriers and rely on just the postal service for parcel delivery, if we operated like FedEx and UPS, we wouldn't deliver to them. And he also took a shot at the Postal Regulatory Commission by saying the Postal Regulatory Commission doesn't understand modern day logistics, productivity, and aggravation. And then he went on to say that it's hard to be profitable when you have significant unfunded mandates by Congress.
Well, last thing I knew, we weren't for a profit service. We are that of a public service and not for a profit business.
The
But
only
we are.
the,
But we are.
the
We
only
actually are.
the only public service out there that makes a profit is the Federal Reserve because they print their own profit.
What gets me is that I got my Eagle magazine, and in there, Dejoy says the continued success of the post office will carry through the Christmas period. Well, hold it. You just announced a $10.1 billion loss. Despite all your efforts to reduce our costs, but we have a successful Christmas season coming up.
And
Somebody,
who's
somebody
gonna
explain that to me, please.
and who makes that Christmas season successful? It's
The
not
carriers.
management. It's the carriers, it's the mail handlers, it's the clerks, it's those of us that have our feet on the ground at the lower levels that make it work.
The people that actually move the product are what makes it successful. The people barking orders don't do anything to make it successful.
do what UPS did, lay off unneeded management. We could lay off almost all management. That's how good we are. That's how well
Absolutely.
trained the rural craft is. We need minimal management. What we need is managerial commitment and cooperation to get the job done. You don't need no more management.
Yeah, as long as I know where to grab my mail and get my packages, I am good to go. Let me case that up, pull that down, load my truck, and hit my route. And do what I can for my customers while I'm out on the street.
Tag 93. They replaced the AC so they couldn't get new batteries for scanners. That's as bad as when Westchester went to the SDNC and we couldn't get rubber bands. Rubber bands.
Mm-hmm.
What? Explain that one to me. The custodians turn around. We have to use the outside porta potties because the inside bathrooms don't have enough toilet paper for all the new employees in the SDC. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, you just make this shit up as you go. And your customers look at you like, Bill, come on, hey, what are you doing, drugs again? I said, never stopped. But the fact of the matter is, this is the bullshit, that we go through every day across the country.
Yep.
And there were a few more comments that he made during his opening statement that I want to go over before I get into Rand Paul. He said when he took over, the Postal Service was about to run out of cash. The Postal Service has been about to run out of cash for 30 years now? 40 years?
At least.
Somewhere around there?
Yeah, since the late 80s. Late 80s, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Deferred maintenance, not equipped for modern delivery. Poorly evolved package products. 57% of the 31,000 facilities did not cover the cost of the employees that worked at them. So 57%, that's a little less than all the rural facilities in the United States. 76% of our 235,817 delivery routes lost money. Out of the 55,000 trucks that they run daily, 70% were empty. 4 different networks they had were at significantly low usage. I'm guessing probably close to rural areas. They wanted to do changes in collection, delivery times to improve. It was a costly, chaotic, and illogical network designed for mail, but must be redesigned to include increased package volume. He said his plan does not affect rural communities. Transparency and accountability are things he wants in the Postal Service. And we are not a typical government agency in the fact that they don't get tax dollars except when the Senate bails them out with a little, postal reform or something where they send in a little bit of extra money with it. He said that the Postal Service has many competitors. Trying to figure that one out, the many competitors that we have that deliver mail through the United States. We also have many layers of regulations and oversight that would cripple a private company. And it has significance as it has crippled the Postal Service in the past. So regulatory bodies covering not only the Postal Service, but you have regulatory bodies that cover private businesses as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying that they're all crippling it? Well, yeah, things like OSHA retaliation. We know they sent that out in an email that OSHA retaliation is something they want to stop. They don't want to prevent it. They just want to stop OSHA retaliation. Things like that.
Now, what about those 674 post offices out in Kansas that weren't getting service? That was in that interview.
I didn't make notes on that. I was trying to. I was just typing as he was talking, trying to get through it. Yeah, I could barely stomach half the stuff he was saying.
That's the epitome of being rural out there in Kansas. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-mm.
Kansas, Missouri, North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming,
the Midwest,
Nevada too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Iowa,
even UP of Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy to think that this gentleman thinks that we can operate like UPS, FedEx, Amazon, and so on, while still servicing every household in America.
If we could operate like them,
see it.
where's our parcel jumpers?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Why don't we have a spare seat in the LOB?
Yeah.
And not one in the back. One where they actually have a door they can quickly get out of, instead of having to crawl across your lap to parcel jump for you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we don't have parcel jumpers anyways, but yeah. I mean,
yeah.
It's getting so bad out there. I saw an Amazon guy running to the front door the other day. Not to the front door.
Oh yeah.
I've never seen an Amazon person run.
I've seen it a couple of times. I usually joke with him because either he's blocking me turning in to deliver a parcel, or I'm blocking his way and he's having to run from the street. So, but yeah. At that time, I just look at him. Hey, you want to trade? I bet I got more than you do.
If they had to deal with the mail and the parcels, they'd quit in the first day.
Oh yeah.
They'd probably call up from the route saying, "Come pick up your truck."
And a lot of the times I see, especially with our Amazon Flex drivers in my area, is one person's driving the vehicle and it's the other person sitting next to him in the passenger seat that's getting out and hopping the packages.
Oh, by the way, Mr. Johnson, the NRLCA does have merchandise, and they are selling it to make up for the loss of dues for members bailing from the union. Just my personal opinion.
So
might not be true, but it's my opinion.
Let's get into Rand Paul.
Oh God,
the most uninformed, illogical speaker I heard on that Senate hearing.
I need to go get liquor. Hold on. This guy, as soon as he started talking, I went and got the Crown.
I went to get a bunch of empty bottles, so I don't even have any grabbing distance.
He's so anti-union that he can't see the facts beyond the nose on his face. And he made statements. The Postal Service should be private, which they've been talking about for decades. Again, privatize the Postal Service so we can get it off the federal rolls. The Postal Service converted 190,000 employees to career, and a private company wouldn't do that. They keep them non-career, keep them without benefits, without full-time pay, without overtime, and so on and so forth, in his eyes. If a company had to do the pay increases that the Postal Service did, they would shut down their plants in the union state and move them to a right-to-work non-union state. Postal workers made, or union workers made 50% more than non-unionized workers. Hang on, Rand Paul. So you're saying that non-unionized workers made half as much as unionized workers. So in my opinion, those non-unionized workers should unionize to get that pay from those union workers. But then you'd want them to move them to a right-to-work state. Well, what happens when every single state in the United States gets whiff of this 50% increase of pay and they all unionize? What are you going to do then, Mr. Paul? In Kentucky, they went from the pension plan, where the government sponsored the pension plan, to a contribution plan. So you shifted the cost of the retirement plan from the company to the employee, is what you're saying. And no funding to the United States Postal Service should be given without labor changes. So get rid of the unions and we'll give you money, in Rand Paul's eyes. He did actually say hubs have resulted in worse deliveries and services. So I'll give him credit there. He did recognize that these hubs are costing money and costing time and efficiency. Yeah. And on top of that, companies have to provide to their owners and shareholders and have no responsibility to their employees. And don't do it by adding more union employment. Does Rand Paul realize that since he's been in office, that the Postal Service has had added more management to the roles over and over and over again? Because in the 1980s, we had one manager for every 20 carriers. Then in the 2000s, we had one manager for every 10 carriers. And as of last year, we were at one manager for every 7 carriers. Now, granted, some people could argue that it's the fact that we aren't hiring enough people and don't have enough people to work the routes alone to cover that gap. But you're still way more managers than you need for the number of employees that are actually doing the work.
Mhm.
Well, hold it. That means you get up to the standards of past years, you'd have to be able to hire approximately another 200,000 employees to equal the management levels, which would then have fully stocked post offices as far as subs are concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And people could have their days off,
They could take
spend
their
time with their family,
vacations.
go to the doctors, get their vehicles fixed. You mean those 200,000 people? Dumbass. What a fucking dumbass.
And that's
But like
Kentucky.
somebody says, he does attract attention, and that's what he is. He's a sideshow.
It's up to the people in Kentucky to contact Senator Rand Paul and tell him what they think of him. I can't, Kristen can't, Bill can't, because we're not from Kentucky. And if we called his office, they would just take notes on what we said and then throw it in the circular filing bin when we hang up the phone. Because they wouldn't care, because we're not constituents in Kentucky. But the people of Kentucky can talk to Rand Paul's office and give them his opinion.
And I thought it was bad in Pennsylvania with having Fetterman in office. Oh, it is.
I will say Kristen and I are lucky having Gary Peters in our state. But it makes me feel like the disconnect between management and us, and the disconnect between management and Dejoy, the disconnect between Dejoy and the Senate Oversight Committee, is just something that can easily be bridged, can easily be fixed if somebody actually sat down and took the time to fix it. But I guess
Yeah.
the mess is what people at the top like. The confusion, the lack of knowledge passed through the system. I guess it benefits the people at the top more than it does anybody else, especially pooms and impoos that send out emails that are garbage.
I have no words.
Like I said, when I made my decision to retire, it was basically maybe 5-6 years in the making. The way everything's going, and especially from our own union. That's the most disparaging remark I can make. Our own union has failed us, and we need to change the rest of the national board. And it's a shame that Nikki Phillips and John Adams are on board with signing this MOU. There's no way that the three of us would ever sign that. We'd have told them to take that. We told Kathy Perron to take that MOU and use it for the toilet paper it was worth.
And that's the
Absolutely.
thing is we don't know for sure whether they agreed to it or not. You have to remember, anytime they talk on behalf of the union, it has to be agreed upon on the national board from the president, because the president is the one that authorizes people to speak on things. So we have to figure it out. So if they want to contact me on a non-union phone and tell me whether they agreed with it or not, I'll take their phone call. They have my number.
But you damn well know that they had to go with the majority.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a
Leave
majority
it at
vote.
that.
It could be 5-4. We don't know until I can actually get through to Tommy Turner. I keep trying to call his office, but I keep getting his secretary's voicemail every time I call, and they don't call me back.
Wonder why. Oh, shit.
So, but
Oh.
I hear that the city carrier ballots are going out.
They'll be delayed until the end of Christmas.
Well, I'm guessing that by the time frame that I've seen, it's probably going to be February before we actually have the answer on what their vote was.
I'll give it to you right now. No.
From the social media presence and the rallies that I've seen and heard about, it's very hard for me to think that they would vote yes on it, but we don't know what's behind the curtain. So we have to presume to not know which way it's going to go, on the basis that maybe, just maybe, we'll have a bunch of ballots that just appear out of nowhere for the count for them. We don't know.
This isn't like a political election. It's not like they have extra ballots anywhere, right?
Oh, you'd be surprised.
I'm out.
So, but hopefully they'll get their stuff settled so that way these other unions can negotiate. I do want to applaud the APWU president for his very candid comments that he made in his latest update.
Yeah.
You guys can go read them. We're not going to mention the word that he used on here for fear of retaliation, but you guys can go read it for yourself.
Because it was a striking comment.
Yes, it was. It was very, very eye-opening. But I figure, so somebody asked, do you think we'll get another update on our contract soon? The update, usually he's giving them out once a month, so we'll probably see it here soon, hopefully, I think. I don't know when his last update was.
I can tell you here real quick.
11/11 was the last update he had, so he did do a video of his visit to Florida back when he went in October, but he put a video together and put it out on November 26th. So,
Oh, and I
but
just
we're
wanted to
waiting
do
on that.
a quick update for those with open enrollment, which was initially scheduled to close tomorrow. Open enrollment season has been extended through Friday the 13th. So,
It had to be Friday the 13th.
yes, it
Didn't
did. Yep.
That's
So
all I
open
had for today,
enrollment's been
guys.
extended through the end of the week. So for those that are still having issues with trying to get logged in and make changes if necessary, open enrollment was extended for a few days.
Not my
So
problem.
yeah, I know it's not your problem. Not mine either, honestly. I'm not making any changes, so I'm good there. But am I, going with the rural care benefit plan does automatically switch over. So
Now, does that
yeah.
include what's it, Aspira, FSA plan where you're getting reimbursed?
I don't know if that includes that or not. I would think, and for those that are wondering how to do that, because I've seen some things post up on social media, you go under Postalese and you go to the apps, and under Flex Spending Account, it'll be highlighted in red. And when you click on that, it'll automatically take you to the Inspira. Ruby's standing behind me again.
We can see.
Hi,
Yeah,
Ruby.
No, we
Where's our
don't have a.
grandchild? Huh? We're supposed to get a spot interview with the grandson here.
Where's the baby? He's sleeping.
Uh
We still don't have a start date for her yet, so he's in the dryer, Bill.
huh. Well, yeah, it's a gentle cycle though.
Yeah,
Boom, 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 boom.
yeah.
How you rock him to sleep?
I'm so
Little
glad you
crown
can't
apple
hear
on the
this right
gums,
now.
man. Crown apple on the gums. He'll be fine.
Oh, she wants to hear the conversation.
She missed the good part.
I know.
Yeah. Why wait till he's teething? Let him get some experience now. God, that's like putting a new RCA on a route for the first time. Here you go. Follow the mail.
Yep.
So, anything else, guys, or are we gonna wind this down for tonight?
I'm good.
I'm good.
All right, go ahead and lead us off on the final words tonight, James.
We talk about all these issues with the post office and the things that are happening to carriers and stuff like that. Remember, the most important part of this is your own safety. Whether it's them wanting you to be out late at night or doing early morning deliveries in the dark. Safety is your responsibility. We talk about Dejoy and all these other people on this podcast, but really, we want you guys educated. We want you guys to understand that we understand what's going on with you. We understand what is going on because we're out there on the street with you. Kristen and I, Bill's now retired, but he still is on the street with carriers because
Yeah.
he's talking to them every single day. And that's the biggest thing that can help a lot of people is just having somebody who understands what's going on. So if you need help, you need a listening ear. You're feeling stressed out because you're working long hours and management's getting on you and you need somebody to talk to, reach out to us. We're here for you, especially in this holiday season.
Even if it's just somebody to vent to. I know I take vent phone calls all the time.
Yeah, oh, baby. Yeah.
I spend a minimum of an hour, 2 hours with somebody who's venting on the phone with me. I know Kristen does too.
Yep.
And Bill does too. We're here for that because at the end of the day, we're all in this together. Bill?
Well, that's so true, and even though I've taken retirement, I'm still actively involved in my local, at my office, and across the country, answering people's questions. Most of the topics that I've come up with are people from across the country are going through the same shit that you are, same shit that my office goes through, and it needs to stop, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I feel for you. I mean, the weather's coming in. You've already gotten a little bit of snow. Nothing ridiculous yet. But to hear these people talk, especially like Dejoy being questioned, you have no idea what the hell it takes to run the post office. And you have no idea who runs the post office. We do. We're the face of the post office. And if it wasn't for our efforts every day, this organization would have been down the shithole years ago. But the people on the street keep it alive, keep it thriving, keep the customers engaged, satisfied. I mean, 3 times this week, I've got calls from carriers, 2 in my office and 1 outside. What's so hard about giving the carrier a forwarding notice? They're putting mail in mailboxes, the mail's piling up. They go back to the office and say, do these people have a forward in there? Oh, yeah, we haven't gotten around to printing them. They get them, and the forward expires the next day. I mean, how freaking hard can it be? In between bites of Chick-fil-A, why can't you do your job? Why can't you get off your ass and give people the parts labels? Why can't you let them know there's a problem with a certain customer? Interactive, cooperation. God, wouldn't you love to see that in an office? Weather's moving in. Christmas is upon us. You've got packages out wazoo. Everybody take your time. Be careful. Be safe. Don't, if the hairs on the back of your neck go up, that means you ought to be stepping out of that situation. Be safe. Make sure you make the most important delivery of the day, and that's yourself home to your loved ones for Christmas, because that's the most important present at Christmas time. You and your family around the tree, not what's under the tree. God bless you all. Kristen?
Thank you. Yep, thank you, guys. Yeah, definitely stay safe out there. I know some areas have gotten a lot more snow than others. And, definitely stay safe and make sure you get home to your loved ones. Yes, we are all working long hours into the dark. Do what you have to do to stay safe out there. And getting yourself home is definitely important. But we thank you guys all again, and we'll be back next week, of course. Have a good one, everyone.
Someone just messaged me and said that somebody should remind Rand Paul that he is a government employee too.